Hi, I'm Christian Hollis with Clocks by Hollis. Me and my dad run this shop. Today I'm going to show you what to do if your hands are stuck. Now I just went over what would happen if you have a count wheel. And this is a rack and snail. So if for some reason that the power on this side, which is this weight here, the far right weight, hits the ground before it's able to dig itself out of here, and it's already let this down. So say this is down here like this and nothing's running, and the clock continues to go along and run. Now this has got a slope on it, so it's not going to happen on this clock, but other clocks, they have a straight pin that come out, and when it gets to about this time here, it'll stop. And what you do in that case is just go ahead and move your hand slightly backwards, wind it up all the way, and then just let it hour correct itself, and then turn it to the right time, which means hour correct, which means that on the hour is the only time it will do the hour. So it'll automatically correct itself. And if this hand isn't facing it, just listen to how many times it's striking. See, right now it's behind the rack. It's going to have to dig itself out, and that's the problem with some clocks. They can't dig themselves out, so they stop. So I'm going to unstick it. Today we're going to go over what happens if this happens. A lot of people do this. And first of all, some terminology. This is called the hour hand. It's the short, stubby one. And the minute hand is the long, slender one that sits on the outside. So if you don't know what time it is, it's because somebody went around with their finger probably and are turning their hands like this, and they accidentally hit this. The way we want you to do is we want you to turn it by the hub, because these hands are not meant to be touched in this way. They're only supposed to indicate the time. So if you have it hanging like this, you would like to know what time it is, just bring it up here to the hour. Okay, I count 5, right? Did you count 5? I counted 5.
Yep.
So all we do is we come up here, we put it to 5, and we get behind it. Now if you need to, you can get in there with your thumbnails or some kind of butter knife or screwdrivers, and there you go. Now it's set. Now it's going to move right along with it. See, like I said, you're moving your hand like this, right? Like this. Like this. And like that. All right? By the nut, basically.
Okay. Another question that was brought to me was, how do I reset my clock if I forgot to wind it? Well, letting a clock run down is not the worst thing you can do, but it's one of the worst things, because at that point of when the power runs out of your clock, you have negative power in the clock, and it can throw itself out of beat. It can do several different things. If it's actually one that has a count wheel in it, that count wheel can get out of adjustment, and you have to get it back into sync. On a rack and snail, which most of them are today, those are ones that it always points to the time that the clock is supposed to strike. Now, on the count wheel one, all you would need to do on a count wheel clock is you would advance the hands after you've wound it, advance the hands, and see exactly what the clock is striking. Once you have determined what the clock is striking, you make the hands on the front of the clock look like what it is struck. In other words, if it struck 2 o'clock and it was actually 10, you make the clock by moving the hour hand, the small hand, to the 2 position, and then push it back on, because it will work itself out. You want to push it back on so that now it looks like 2 o'clock. It just struck 2 o'clock, and now you can advance it forward by stopping at each half hour and hour to allow it to strike until you get to the time that it actually is. On a rack and snail, as long as your hands are pointed to the right one, it will always stay pointing to the time that it is going to strike. You just have to wind it up, and it will correct itself.